Disabilities can hinder a person's ability to work or earn a living. Hence, it's important for a parent of a special needs child to build and accumulate wealth for a child's lifetime. Because ordinarily what we see is parents usually care to save enough for the child's first 20 years or so on. But in case of a special needs child, the care and support must be extended towards their 50-60 years of age or till their lifetime. In case, or as most of the wealthiest families in India do, we have to build wealth for the next 2 generations. Welcome to today's video. Today I'll be talking more about how to plan your finances for a special needs child and help in achieving their financial goals. The main foundation for achieving this financial goal would be financial security. So you may ask, what are the foundation that needs to be laid down to achieve this financial security pillar? So starting with first point, enhancing liquidity. The liquidity is the topmost priority. The money should be easily accessible to you. We should actually try to avoid illiquid assets. Traditionally, we all Indians are real estate heavy and traditional assets heavy. So we need to try avoiding or building a large real estate portfolio as such. One home where a child can live comfortably after the caretaker's lifetime, which is easily accessible. There's no need to have a large real estate portfolios or buying unnecessary lands or properties in rural areas, because child won't be in a position to take care of the property or assets. So having one asset or one home where child can live comfortably in a secure society is more than enough. So this brings to our next point, building an emergency reserve. So comparing to a normal household, we have to actually build this emergency reserve considering two things. One would be your family's monthly expenses, one would be child specific monthly expenses. You should try to aim and build 2 years of your monthly expenses into emergency reserve. So one would take care of your family needs and one would be there for your child's need. So the second bucket, the second emergency reserve can also be termed as a medical reserve, because medical needs can spike anytime. And getting a health insurance policy for a child with a special need is very hard, and at sometimes we won't be eligible to. So still there are two insurance policies, health insurance policies that are available in the market that are called as Nirmaya Health Insurance sponsored by government, and also one by Star Care. If you want to know more about these policies, please feel free to reach out to our team, as it is important to ensure that no emergency, contingency or medical expenses derail your important financial goals. So having this two medical reserve and emergency reserve set, it will actually safeguard your any contingency or unexpected setbacks or expenses, and you can actually focus on building a wealth for your future financial goals. So where should you build your emergency reserve? You can actually build your emergency reserve in cash equivalents, liquid funds, fixed deposit or also short-term debt instruments. So moving on to the next point, what would be the next important pillar? It would be appointing a custodian. So what does custodian mean? The custodian means custodian of your capital, custodian of your wealth. So this plays a crucial role in ensuring the financial well-being, the future security of a child and beneficiaries are taken care of. The custodians of capital are often responsible for managing and safeguarding the financial resources and assets that are intended to support the child in the long-term needs after the caretaker's lifetime. In short, custodians of capital ensure that there is continuity of care and support even if anything happens to the primary caretakers or primary caregivers. So you may ask, how can I appoint a custodian for my capital? By simply setting up a family trust. Yes, you heard it right, by setting up a family trust. So what happens in a family trust? In short, it's like you will have a trust deed where your investment objectives and your financial goals would be laid down. You will be appointing a trust that will be a caretaker and will be managing your assets for you and taking care of your child's future needs. So what happens is, based on the objectives that you set down and lay down on your trust deed, the trustees will actually take care and manage your assets for you. This trust will provide a dedicated source of funds for the child's specific needs, considering whatever the objectives that are laid down while actually implementing the trust deed. Setting up a family trust would ensure peace of mind for the family and the guardians and ensure a continuity of care and support for the child and beneficiaries. So appointing custodian of capital, that is setting up a trust, is very crucial to ensure that the future security and financial security of a child and beneficiaries are taken care of even after the caretaker's lifetime. So next, coming to the point of adequacy of capital. Adequacy of capital means this is to ensure it's like whatever financial resources and assets that we have built would be sufficient or enough to care for the child's lifetime. So as you see on the screen, the data below, if I'm planning to give 1 lakh of annual income for my child for next 40 to 50 years every year. So as you consider, it may be 1 lakh for next 40 years, 40 lakhs, right? But one thing we usually miss out on is considering inflation. So as you see on the screen, 1 lakh on today's value after 10 years would be approximately 1.8 lakhs. After another 20 years, it would be 3.2. As time goes by, after 40 years, the 1 lakh would be valued at 10.3 lakhs considering inflation. So how do I explain inflation for you? So last year, a 1 liter packet of milk costed around 58 rupees. And this today's value of a 1 liter of packet of milk would be approximately 66 rupees. So there's a jump of 8 rupees, right? So that 8 rupees is inflation. So that is the expenses that increase year on year. And in India, the general inflation is considered to be 6%. Hence, your beneficiary may require the support for a long time. And hence, the plan should be for long term, and so missing out on inflation would actually make the wealth corpus insufficient. So for families planning for the child's wealth creation goal, it's necessary to consider inflation so that we don't lead to an inadequate capital pool. So as I said, while planning for the child's future needs, inflation has to be considered, right? So how can a mere single digit return giver like a recurring deposit or fixed deposit help you create a wealth? Because right now maybe the fixed deposit rate would be 7%. After tax, it would be approximately 6%, right? So for building wealth for a long period of time and creating wealth rather than burning your wealth while investing in recurring deposit or fixed deposit, the better option is equity mutual funds or direct stocks or direct equity exposure. In summary, assessing the adequacy of capital for the children's need requires careful evaluation of their current needs and the future needs. So moving on to the next thing, importance of timeline. So as you see, having the timeline and plan of action ready is very important while planning the finances for a special needs child. As the first 5 years go in figuring out or building an inclusive community and choosing the right investment products to build wealth for next 10 years and so on. So next 10 years we contribute and compound the wealth, and maybe in early 20s or in late 20s we'll be able to provide an income for our kids. So let's see an example. So if I'm planning to give an income for my child from starting the age of 20, so considering today's expenses, it would be at 25,000 for assumption. Considering an inflation of 6% of the monthly expenses, at the age of 20, it would be approximately 80,000. And the total corpus needed for the payout starting from age 20 would be 3 crores. Let's see what investment needs to be made to build the entire wealth corpus so that my child would have an entire corpus ready and I can provide him income for his next 80 or 100 years and so on. With a monthly SIP of 50,000 for next 20 years, a person can easily build a corpus of 3.5 crores with a return expectation of 9%, which is fair enough and which is a fair assumption too. This might differ from family to family depending upon the monthly savings, etc. And the corpus can be structured in such a way that monthly income or payout can be easily withdrawn for the next 80 years from this entire wealth corpus that we create. Some of you may ask, already my child is 15 years old, what should I do now? The only answer is starting now. So it's like even if we start and compound wealth for next 10 to 15 years, we will be in a position to give an income plan or a wealth corpus in the child's starting early 30s or maybe late 20s too. So that's possible. As we discussed before starting any investment, the contingency and medical reserve building would be our main first priority. So when the first bucket list is ticked off, then we'll move on and build wealth in equity, mutual funds, etc. So let's talk more about structuring these finances. As we discussed, before starting any investments, we'll be focusing and building on the emergency reserve and medical reserve, as that is the first priority. Apart from that, as we saw, it's like, so having a large real estate portfolio is not recommended because it's more illiquid, and having just one home where a child can live comfortably is more than enough. So after on, whatever savings you have, you can actually try saving up more and invest into equity and mutual funds and build wealth over a long period of time. And from this wealth that we have created, we'll actually try to plan out and build an income plan from the corpus that we have already created. So moving on to the last and important thing, having an oversight. Once you have a proper financial plan ready by the financial advisor and the trustee is appointed to take care of the implementation part. So it's never a one-time thing. There should be a continuous supervision and review is to be done by all of them as they are interlinked towards working towards the investment objective that is laid down. Hence, closing down, to have a fulfilling life, you as a parent need to take into account all the possible risks that may come out and do a proper financial planning, hence safeguarding the financial future of your child. Nurturing a child with a special need requires more personal and professional assistance. While emotional supports can be provided from the inner circle, family, support help groups, etc., sometimes expert advice would be required in the financial matters when you are aware of huge medical and financial expenses are required while planning for the special needs child. Thank you.